Hi, it's Martin here from Gripping Beast. This time I'd like to look at the shooting phase in Swordpoint, using the example units in front of us here. Our cavalry unit is armed with bows, so can shoot up to 24 inches with a close range of 12 inches. If no one can charge our unit, then its target priority is the nearest enemy unit, though there are exceptions to this, which I'll demonstrate. The first issue is that the target must be within the unit shooting arc, which is 90 degrees in front of the unit centre. You can use a handy device like this one here to check the arc if you like. In this case we can see that both the infantry unit on the hill and its covering skirmishers are outside the cavalry shooting arc, and so are not legitimate targets. That leaves us two other enemies. The nearer of those is the Skirmishing Cavalry. This target is partially behind the wood. We can't draw lines from the front corners of our cavalry unit to the corners of this target, so it counts as obscured and so will be harder to hit. Because the target is both obscured and skirmishing, we're allowed to ignore it if we choose, and this allows us to shoot at the infantry instead. Each shooting base gets 1d6, so our cavalry unit of 6 bases throws 6 dice. If our unit was entirely of foot bows or long bows, it would get a bonus of 2 extra dice and throw 8. It's worth a quick look at the enemy infantry here, as they have special rules and are combined formations of bows and spears. The unit we are targeting has 25% bows, and that is, the rear line of bases has both bows and spears on it, and the front line is just spears. It will throw 3d6. The unit on the hill has 75% bows, that is, the rear line of bases are completely bow and the front line are mixed spear and bow, and it will throw 6 dice. Neither gets the 2 dice bonus for a completely bow-armed unit, but obviously they're much better than foot bows in combat. The other thing worth mentioning here is that the unit shooting from the hill has to be careful not to hit its friendly skirmishers in front of it. You must make sure they are at least 80mm away from both the shooters and their target in order to shoot. In this case that hasn't happened, so the infantry on the hill will not be able to shoot at the cavalry. So our unit is going to shoot at the infantry to its front, which I've measured to be 14 inches away, and thus at long range. We declare this and then the other targets, and our opponent declares his own targets at the same time. That way we know which units are protected by shields against incoming missiles and which are not. Our cavalry obviously will not be. And we now throw our dice to determine any hits. A hit is scored by throwing 4 or more with a d6, subject to any modifiers, and we've got 2 of those. Our shooting is at long range, which increases the requirement to a 5 or 6. However, our cavalry, luckily for us, are superior shooters, so the requirement comes back down to 4 or more. Superior shooters at short range can be deadly, hitting on 3s. Note that both obscured and skirmishing targets are harder to hit, so if we'd chosen to aim at those skirmishing cavalry half behind the wood, we need a 4 plus 1 for long range, plus 1 for obscured, plus 1 for skirmishing, giving 7, less 1 because we're superior shooters, so we would need 6s to score a hit. Once we've scored our hits, our opponent attempts to prevent them converting to kills by throwing against the target's defense value. He takes any dice which hit and throws them again. Any that roll equal or higher than the defense value are discarded, and only the remainder are kills. In our example, the target, like all units, begins with a defense value of 7, which is lowered by any armour and equipment it has. The front of this unit is equipped with large shields, which lower the defense value by 2 to 5. So we need to throw 5 or 6 to avoid a kill. Just as a quick example, let's throw our dice, and we can see that we've actually scored, it's a cocked dice, so again, we've actually scored 3 hits of 4 with 4 or more. So we need to throw those 3 dice, or our opponent will throw those 3 dice, aiming to get a 5 or a 6. He gets 1 6, a 3 and a 4, so 2 of those hits have converted to kills. Now the target is made up of 6 bases of close order infantry, so they have a unit strength of 24, that is 6 bases times 4 each. If we had scored 3 kills, we would have exceeded 10% of the unit strength, and the enemy would become discouraged, earning us a momentum token because they're not a skirmish unit. If we had achieved 4 kills, a base would be removed in addition. Remember that shooting is all simultaneous, so the enemy will still shoot with its 3 dice regardless of what happens with our shooting. If we managed to score an extremely unlikely 6 kills, we would have reached 25% of the unit strength, and the enemy would have to take a cohesion test as well as losing a base and becoming discouraged. Remember to work through the phase in sequence, and you'll find it pretty easy to get right. You'll quickly find that you can save time. For example, if you scored 2 hits on a unit with strength 24 as we did here, there's actually no point throwing against a defense value, because the possible maximum of 2 kills is not sufficient to achieve a discouragement. That's all on shooting for now. More next time. Bye.